I mean, Blockbuster Video was the cool thing. You're working at Blockbuster.
That was the weekend hangout.
Exactly. You're working at Blockbuster on a Friday night.
Sure.
Your friends come up. You're good. Now, listen, I was always the guy working in the burger joint who was getting off work and running by Blockbuster. I wasn't working in the Blockbuster. But I look at, we're that diner in Footloose, right? Where everybody shows up, and you're playing music and that party in the parking lot. We're that Blockbuster Video. And that makes it, that's a secret that nobody else gets. And so we resonate very, very well. I knew that. And we're creating these opportunities, and we had so many people that wanted these opportunities. I wasn't worried about the initial scale.
Need a partner who sees the big picture? Forza Management. We're not just property managers, we're strategic partners. Navigating the complex world of commercial real estate can be daunting. That's where Forza Management comes in. Forza Management provides services in the mountain and desert states and covers all types of asset classes, including retail, industrial, and office. Our team of experts delivers exceptional property management services, namely property maintenance, lease administration, and annual CAM reconciliations. When looking at your next property, check out our website at forzacommercial.com. Forza Management, maximizing your investment and minimizing your stress.
Here we go. The inaugural Dirt Dog Pod. We have our guest of honor, Arron Harris. Welcome to the pod.
Chris, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here, an inaugural Dirt Dog with you, and happy to spend a little bit of time talking about what we do at Dutch Bros, talk to you about myself, and I got a lot of questions for you too. So
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. It's funny, we've kind of zeroed in on this nickname, the Dirt Dogs, and what's fascinating about that is I don't think there's a bigger dirt dog in the world than you. You are the most fitting guest to have on here as the very first. And a great example of that, first question, how many hotel nights did you have last year in the calendar year of 2023?
234 nights in Hilton hotels, and probably 9 in non-Hilton branded properties of some kind. I know I was at a convention that had something to do with one of the Gaylord properties, and then long, complicated story, but I ended up in a Motel 6 in Scottsdale for 2 nights. And not bad, I might add.
So of the 234 nights in a Hilton product, which is your favorite Hilton hotel?
My go-to at this point, I think just for luxury or nice, would be the Conrad. And I don't stay in the Conrads very often. Might spend some points. They have their curio collection. Mm-hmm. And their curio collection is all these unique hotels that they branded differently. And so a lot of them are older and smaller hotels, but they're operated under the Hilton nameplate, or they're managed by the Hilton nameplate. Right here in Salt Lake City, there is the Puri. Mm-hmm. Guys, you know that hotel's haunted, right?
Yeah.
That hotel is haunted.
Did you know that, Por?
Did you know that? If you guys don't know, Google haunted Salt Lake, and that's the first thing that pops up.
Is there one room in that hotel that's more haunted than the others?
I don't know that, but so I guess I guess the area was old lavender fields, and so where they build all this up, when you're walking through the hallway, I don't know if they play into the myth and they pipe in some lavender smell right there, but it's a very cool thing. So I really like that hotel. But what's unique? There's a couple of hotels that Hilton has in like downtown Salt Lake or downtown Kansas City. They've got a couple speakeasies that are built in right there. So like to have a little bit of fun with that. Then when I'm just out in the suburbs, I kind of become a guy who's gotten really accustomed to like the home 2 suites.
Yeah. Right.
Trying to be a little bit healthier these days, not eating out every day. So might stick at a grocery store in the home 2. I can cook for myself. Mm-hmm. At least microwave for myself.
That's
I'm
right.
being honest with you here, but yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Love that. 234 nights plus 9 plus 2. So that puts you at 245 nights of 365 days last year.
Is that math right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something like that, yeah.
Wow. So the reason when I think Dirt Dog, I think driving behind the windshield, looking at sites, and that is you. That is your life, right? And so, for the listeners that are listening to that and thinking about 2/3 of somebody's year spent in a hotel room, what is that what it takes when you're expanding a brand like Dutch and you're trying to get as many stores open? I mean, is is that what it takes? You got to be on the road and you got to see these things.
I'm a big believer that this job, a development job, especially in an expanding chain, happens on the road. The job does not happen in an office. It happens out in the field. And there's no substitute for knowledge of local neighborhoods, local streets, local businesses, what's going on, where people are spending their money, where they're doing their wares. I can pull some stuff up on Google Earth, and I can look at every heat map in the world, and Placer AI tells me this is where everybody is. But, when you're there on a Friday afternoon and you see, okay, this is where people are going when they get off work. This is where people are shopping. This is where people are spending their money. You need to experience and be a part of those communities. And I do think it's something that needs to happen. And one of the things that, we've been interviewing for a couple of positions I've posted lately for some site selection managers. And one of the questions that one of the people I interviewed the other day asked me, says, what do I need to know from you? What do I have to do to be successful at this job? And I said, you've got to be present in your markets. And, I don't need these guys to be order takers. And and as the boss, I have to lead by example. And I need to be out there. And sometimes people joke that I remember every site I see, and that's a blessing and a curse at times. But as we go down the road, look at sites, you get to know neighborhoods, you get to know when things are changing. And are we on the upswing? Are we on the downswing?
How do you assess it? So I've presented you some site, and let's just take Kansas City, right? And maybe it's a part of Kansas City that you're not as familiar with. You go there, you look at the site. What is your first, 2 or 3 or 4 steps to assess the site?
I honestly walk into the closest QSRs. I walk into the closest QSRs and I start to assess the condition.
Is there a QSR specific that if there's McDonald's, is that what you go into first, or is there a flag you like typically?
Obviously, if there's a Chick-fil-A, I like to see how the Chick-fil-A is running. I mean, they're always great, but reality, you mentioned Kansas City, and I'm gonna look at is McDonald's here? Are they doing a good job? Frankly, is my competition Starbucks here? Are they doing a good job? And then I'm going to look at their building. Are they being maintained? Not as a brand new, I get that, but are they being maintained? Is local franchisee, local operator making some money? Are they reinvesting in this community? Then I'll walk around the parking lot of that, and is it clean? Does the landscape look good? Do people take pride in the neighborhoods here? And we ask ourselves, if is this a place where we can fit? And then I start to look sometimes at second generation space, and what I mean by that is, are there new things coming in and it's making it better, or am I seeing that a lot of brands have come and left, and now you've got some not so reputable businesses coming in to backfill? So you want to get an idea of what that trend starts to look like. I can pull crime data, I can pull economic data. Best case scenario, that stuff's 18 months old. It's just never what we need. But really, it's about getting a feel. And so when I'm in those 240 nights a year in a hotel, and I'm talking to the gals working at the front desk, I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? And they're like, oh yeah, that neighborhood sucks. Are you crazy? And you get a lot of those comments, and they mean a lot. And then you start to dig into why, and you got to make sure you know how to ask those leading questions. So, you start to figure out why they don't like it. Or you run into an old building and franchisee is not making any money and running one of their businesses, and they're keeping it open, they're keeping jobs and paying some taxes in the community, but you look around and you're like, man, they need to replace the windows, they got to replace some doors. This thing needs some TLC. And is that because the community, is it dying? And so that's what you have to figure out.
So you're there with the shift manager or manager for that store location, and you're asking them, do you identify yourself? Like, hi, I'm Arron, I work with Dutch Bros?
I will, unless I'm walking into Starbucks.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Absolutely. I'll walk in. One of the things that gets you a lot of information is hand out a Dutch Bros gift card in a market where we already are.
Yeah.
You walk in, you hand out $5-10 worth of Dutch Bros drinks. You can pretty much get the launch codes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that's great. So a lot of the time I do that. Sometimes I just mention, hey, I'm a real estate investor. Can you tell me about this? And
then you state, I'm looking at X building. What do you think of that property?
I absolutely. And then I'll say, what do you think of the neighborhood? How's it been? How long have you been a part of this neighborhood? Yeah. And, I've been known to pop into barbershops and ask them the same type of question, right there. You'd be amazed what you can find out in a barbershop.
Barbershop.
Barbershop, yeah. See,
I've never done that.
Yeah,
haven't thought of that.
Everybody likes to talk in barbershops.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So many people that I think that follow me and follow you, on Twitter and LinkedIn are young real estate professionals. They're trying to get their foothold in the business. And I think this concept that we're talking about is such a basic concept, but it's something that really doesn't get taught very frequently. You can't beat going in and talking to the business owners and the people running those businesses.
You can't beat going in and talking to the business owners. You have to network and you have to follow up. And easier said than done. Is the larger you make your network, the more people you have to follow up with, and the harder it is to return those phone calls. I've got a poor admin who she can't believe the number of emails I get in a day and the things we have to respond to. I've got young folks on my team, and I mentioned earlier being present, but being a person of your word and following up and making deals, and then getting to a quick no or telling somebody why something will not work. Now, I'm responsible not only for the real estate side of this, but I'm also responsible for the construction side. I'm responsible for the facilities side. I get vendors that call me on a hourly basis, trying to push us. We're one of the fastest growing companies in the nation, and I probably hear from 200 signed vendors a week.
Right. That are pitching you for new business?
Yes, absolutely,
Okay. Yeah.
absolutely, pitching me for new business. Hey guys, don't. I have 3. I'm good.
Yeah.
All right,
Right.
Make sure that's out there.
Sure.
But I appreciate it. They're out there hustling. I can't respond to every single one of those, but I meet you at a trade show and I talk and you give me your card and I say I act like I have some interest. I owe it to you to follow up with that. That's something that I owe it to, and I don't need to ghost you. You talk about the young people in this world. Get out there in the neighborhood, follow up with folks, send them an email, say, hey, this looks good. Thank you for your time. That guy at the barbershop, if he's got an email or a card, send him an email or text message is just as good these days. Send him a text message and say, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you for talking to me about the neighborhood. Well, and then if you open or you start to get under construction, you got a friend.
Yeah.
John at the barbershop, hey, do me a favor. Keep an eye on the site for me. Drop by it. Shoot me a text if you see something going on.
He's not just John at the barbershop. He's John at the barbershop that probably talks to 200 people a week.
But not only is John at the barbershop talking to 200 people, he's a set of eyes and ears.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
no
We all know the security problems you have on job sites. That's a set of eyes and ears walking by, keeping an eye on it for you. And then you know what that cost me? A few gift cards.
Yeah.
Great. And then I have a friends and family event. By the way, we have one here today in Utah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Riverton, Utah.
Riverton.
Riverton,
Yeah,
yeah. We
wonderful.
went it in Riverton. But, we have a friends and family event. Come on, get a free drink. Take care of us. Yeah.
That's great. Let's talk about the growth for a minute because you were just talking about the growth.
Yeah.
When did you start with Dutch? Would you?
Yeah, I joined Dutch as a consultant late summer of 2017.
And how many stores did they have at that time?
Roughly 250.
Okay. And how many stores do you have today?
962.
Wonderful. So that is some serious growth.
Right.
And it took a minute to kind of get the train rolling, right? So when did you start hitting the heavy growth? Was it 2020?
Yeah, it was actually late 2018 and early 2019 that we had really committed to being a brand that wanted to grow. We were we brought on some private equity investment, and we spent the better part of a year figuring out what our plan was going to be as a company as far as growth. And the goal was to be at 800 stores by the end of 2023. That was the goal we had established for ourselves, and that was TSG was our private equity partners at the time. This was under current leadership. This was before a supply chain crisis, previous leadership. This was before a supply chain crisis, before a global pandemic, and before we took the company public. We had set these goals. Oh, and interest rates had also spiked, and construction costs had gone up.
I was going to say, let's go back to that. So when you first got hired, did Trav hire you himself?
Trav and our, at the time, Chief Operating Officer, Brian Maxwell.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but this is, 200 stores, they're getting bigger, but it's still kind of, just a bunch of guys hanging out, guys and gals hanging out in Grants Pass running this company, right? It's small.
It's funny. I've known Dutch Bros for a long time. Obviously, most people know I spent a decade running development of Popeyes before I joined Dutch, and I always knew the brand and had a few experiences. Well, nothing bad, but I just thought these are these crazy hippies out of Oregon. That's really that's really the way I thought.
Yes.
I'd always heard they only hired from within, they only grew from within, and a lot of that held true for the longest time. And whenever I was approached about the opportunity to do something to Dutch, I'm like, what, those crazy Oregon hippies who only hire from within? I don't know that I'm interested. And then I met with Brian. Brian Maxwell is a great man. Met with Brian and Trav and got to know them and their vision. And one of the things that he had built this great brand through franchising and then creating some operating partner opportunities for his group. One of the things he wanted to do was to continue that program called Compelling Future. And so creating those operating partners across the nation to be able to run our stores was big, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Chris, it was, and I'm like, wow, I spent a lot of time working as a consultant back in the day. I actually get to consult and help 30 or 40 kids, and they're all kids at this point, become operating partners and work for us every year.
It more or less functions like their own store, right? Because of the way the incentive structure works for them, right?
Very similar. Everybody's probably familiar with some version of like Chick-fil-A. How Chick-fil-A runs with an operating partner. We pay them a solid base salary. They are employees. They get 401k and all the great benefits and all those great things that come with being an employee. And we do take very good care of them. There's a small bonus plan on top of that, and then they are paid based upon the performance of their stores. And so, they have an opportunity to do really, really well. And the program is called Compelling Future for a reason. Trav explained it to me. He wanted to make it difficult, like law school, but he didn't want to make it impossible, like the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always stuck with me. And some of our folks I've seen come from juniors. When I say junior, what we call mobsters who help us open stores. First on their first trip out in a new opening in Tucson, Arizona, and now I'm seeing them working for us as operating partners in Apalachicola, Florida. Right. So it's just amazing to watch that growth.
Wild. Yeah. In the 10 years you were at Popeyes, how many stores do you think were open that you were responsible for?
Yeah. It's funny. I've crossed that. I've crossed the number. I've done more at Dutch now than I did at
Have you really?
than I did. But at Popeye,
and in a shorter time frame.
In a shorter time frame. But we were a much more established brand back there at Popeyes.
Yeah.
We didn't have as much wide open space to be able to go. I mean, obviously, I did here in the West, in Utah and Arizona and whatnot. But I opened about 640.
Okay.
I opened about 640 Popeyes. I still get phone calls every week. People still sometimes think I'm the Popeyes guy. I want them to think of me as the Dutch Bros Coffee guy.
That's it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're sitting there and you're getting onboarded into the system. How do you look at a company founder and COO and say to them and get comfortable with the fact that, because you're used to a pace, and I know I've known you for a long time, and
right.
it is, let me tell you, if you don't know Arron, you better just buckle up. You're going to be on a rocket ship ride every day of your relationship with him. He's very entertaining, but you're going to move quickly. So how do you sit there and you look at a company that's got 200 stores, and they're sitting there telling you we want to get to 800 by X date, and get a confidence level that that's going to happen? Because to do that it's not just real estate. The real estate job is hard and the construction job is hard, no doubt. But the operational job is equally as painful, right? And just having to, how do we keep the same culture when we get to that many stores? And how do we get the same team of mobsters that are going to get us open and get us running? And
one of the beautiful things we had going here that I figured out really, really quick, we had enough people. We had the people who could protect the core of the brand, who wanted to be our operating partners, and this is what they wanted to do. I did not have the opportunities for them. So we had some leaders who were willing to develop those folks to create the opportunities. I had myself who was willing to go, when I say they were willing to create the positions and train people and scale them. I was willing to go out and find the actual physical opportunities and to work on the prototype, not only work on the prototype building, but be able to find the real estate and scale. When I think about this, I figured out within about 10 minutes of getting to Dutch Bros. I knew the secret other folks didn't. People loved our brand. Our customers loved it. People loved where they went to work.
Yeah.
People loved where they went to get a drink. And we were different than others. As much as I love some of the burger guys or some of the chicken guys, it's kind of it's a job. It's a fast food job. It's not the most glamorous thing in the world. I've worked fast food my whole life. I love it. but I know that's not for everybody. And the secret sauce for us is our people. And I start to think about what is the cool job to have when you're a kid. When I was a kid, I'm going to date myself now. It was Blockbuster Video.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
No doubt.
Blockbuster Video was the cool thing. You're working at Blockbuster.
That was the weekend hangout. You'd see
Exactly.
all your
You're working at
friends
Blockbuster on
there.
a Friday
Yeah,
night.
sure.
Your friends come up. You're good. No, listen. I was always the guy working in the burger joint who was getting off work and running by Blockbuster. I wasn't working in the Blockbuster, but I look at we're that diner in Footloose, right, where everybody shows up. You're playing music and that party in the parking lot. We're that Blockbuster Video, and that makes it that's a secret that nobody else gets. And so we resonate very, very well. I knew that, and we're creating these opportunities, and we had so many people that wanted these opportunities. I wasn't worried about the initial scale. I learned. I know you do a lot of work with In-N-Out. You're trying to do a lot more work with In-N-Out.
That's right. Great company.
Yeah, great company. But one of the things I've learned about In-N-Out is they had so many people on their bench that they were losing people. And one of the things that one of their executives explained to me years ago is they had to start expanding. And that's why they went to Texas.
Oh, because people were coming up through the ranks,
or they were going to they weren't creating opportunities for their folks, as they were going to start losing good employees.
Yep.
I knew that we had the opportunity to keep that from happening at Dutch. We had a lot of great people, and we could go create a lot of great opportunities. And so when I joined us, we had one store in Las Vegas, Nevada, over on Tropicana.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, we are now at 29 stores in Las Vegas, with 4 currently in the works.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty proud of those numbers. We had not opened in Tucson, Arizona, as of yet. We now have 21 stores in the Tucson DMA.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've been able to create those opportunities. I think one of the more impressive things, I wanted to grow this brand. Talking about not only the people and the opportunities, this drive-through only, and we resonate with customers in a big, big way. You might not be able to afford to. Well, no, you're a developer. You can afford anything. All right, but you might not be able to afford to take.
I just have these tenants that keep cramming rents down, but outside of that, yeah.
Okay, Cybertruck, man, Cybertruck. All right, so you have these. You may not be able to afford to take your family to Ruth's Chris every day or every week, but most people have enough coins in their ashtray to be able to afford to get a $5 or $6 drink of some kind and hit the Dutch Bros drive-through. Yeah. And we're that little 10-minute escape party in the parking lot. And we do a great job there.
I think that's one of the most amazing things to me is it doesn't really seem to matter where I'm at Dutch Bros. It's the same type of employee that's there. And they're full of life, and they're happy to see you, and they're thrilled to be at their job. And I just have yet to be disappointed with it as a customer experience.
We do a really good job of weeding that out and self-policing. And I've had all kinds of corporate jobs, and I've been to black and white. I've been a real a-hole at times. You got to do your job. This is what we do, and you got to follow this. And I think Dutch Bros makes you a better person. And there's a devil on this shoulder saying, what's the best thing for the business and the bottom line? And there's a angel on this shoulder saying, what's the best thing for the people involved in the business? And these two are constantly fighting. And I can tell you at Dutch Bros, the angel's always winning. Okay. And, people get to know us, and they get to know our brand. And as we grew in Northern California, Oregon, Washington, and then Las Vegas and Arizona, anybody who travels out west, they start to know who Dutch Bros is. And we said, okay, where do we want to go? Where do we want to build stores, and where do we want to go in contiguous markets? Obviously, Chris, you and I have worked together here with some chicken stuff in Utah. I always thought Utah would be a great market for us. Yeah. And it has been. I believe we're at about 20 stores in the state of Utah right now. First one we did in Utah was in St. George. As close to Vegas as I could get.
That's right.
All right. Our second one we did over here was at Jordan Landing, right here in Salt Lake.
Great spot to gamble in this market. Right?
Great spot to gamble. And I share with you, we opened that Popeyes there at Jordan Landing 12, 13 years ago, and high volume.
Yeah.
Very high volume, record opening days, and franchisee, a guy named Amin Danani, very engaged in what we did. And Amin is a guy I have a ton of respect for, and he's a very competitive guy. And I got to tell you, I pulled our sales from whatever it was 8 years earlier, where I had the hourly sales from the Popeyes. And at the end of the day, we did more sales at Dutch Bros opening day. By the way, the Dutch Bros is across the street from the Popeyes, right there.
Yep.
Okay, but we did more sales opening day at the Dutch Bros, and of course, he got a text message at midnight that night because competitive me, competitive him.
Surprise.
But really proud of what we've been able to do here in Utah and the way we've been able to grow. Not only this market, and then we went into New Mexico, and we've done really, really well in New Mexico. Arizona, for the longest time, was our strongest market, and so. New Mexico just seemed like a natural fit. And then, as I told you, the number of stores we've opened there in Las Vegas. But, if you flash back 4 years, just a little under 4 years, we opened our first store January 8th of 2021 in the state of Texas, College Station. We currently have 205 stores in the state of Texas.
1 to 205 from 2021 to now.
That is correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big growth.
Big growth.
So you're in the DFW area. You'd done Popeye's work there before?
I had done, and I had spent some time in Dallas before, and I knew the market okay.
But okay, so you didn't know the market well enough, and that was what drove you to go stay there more.
What drove me to was we had in February of that year, I had convinced our executives as we were talking about continued expansion.
February 2020.
February of 2020.
Yep.
We had actually spent some time touring parts of Texas with some of our executives. This before the pandemic, before we knew the world was going to lock everybody down, and we said, "Great, we're ready to start kicking some tires and doing some things in Texas." We talked about what our commitments were as a brand, and so a few of us came out, loaded up a couple Suburbans, drove around, and said, "Great, let's." We went to Houston, went to Waco, Austin, all those fun places where we wanted to be. And so we knew that that's a place we wanted to be in. I knew that there was two things that could happen. I could move into a hotel room and I could lean into growth and continue trying to make deals in Texas, or we were going to shut down. I was under the impression I might have to lay off some of my team. That's the world that was in. Thought we may slow down on openings back then, and I started highlighting a couple of the projects we do on LinkedIn. I do a little Saturday night update and got a little bit of a buzz.
So that's when you started.
That's exactly when I started. I had done the occasional stuff before then. I've always done something, but that's when I really started to get programmatic and routine with it.
And for anybody listening that hasn't followed you on LinkedIn, Arron is one of the most entertaining follows just because every Saturday, like clockwork, you get, here is the opening. You get a little bit of a snippet about what happened with the deal, right? And a tag to everybody involved.
Yeah, I want to tag as many people involved as possible.
Oh, and a drink recommend.
And the drink recommendations.
The drink recommends are solid.
They are, especially when some of the kids tell you about the things on the secret menu.
Yeah.
And Dutch Bros does have a secret menu. If you guys find me, I'll text it to you. It's insane. But so I started highlighting a couple of our employees. I'm thinking, listen, if I have to lay them off, if someone wants to steal them from me, let me give them a little. Let's let them go get stolen. I was really afraid that was going to happen. It became pretty clear to me within about 4 or 5 weeks that we were not going to slow down. Growth was not going to be a problem for us, and customers may have been locked down, but they somehow were leaving their house and going to Dutch Bros, right? So business was continued to be good. But all of a sudden I was getting like 10,000 views every time I post something, and then I'm getting 100,000 views. Yeah. So how can I stop doing that, right?
Yeah, sure.
So on Saturday nights I like to put a blurry photo of whatever store. These aren't professional photos. These are whatever my construction guys send me. And I want to be very clear. This isn't something pre-scheduled my marketing department does. I don't do it at the exact same time every week. I call it Saturday night update. Sometimes it's Saturday morning. Occasionally it's Sunday morning. Most of the time I'm watching the UFC fights on a Saturday night and having a cocktail while I type it up and put it out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
Okay, so you've trapped lightning in a bottle from a real estate development perspective. You've been on this ride, which is massively entertaining. Your goal was 800 stores by 2023. You obviously hit that goal. You've superseded. You've gone beyond that goal. You're going to hit 1,000.
Yeah,
here.
we should have hit 1,000 sometime during Q1 of this year.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And where is the brand headed from here?
We have deals signed in Kentucky. We have 4 open and operating shops in Kentucky right now, but we are working in Cincinnati. We are working in Louisville. We're working in Indianapolis. I don't think any of that's a secret. I have 2 stores under construction in the St. Louis market as we speak. I think if you were to look along Interstate 64 or Interstate 70 and just go right across the nation, those would be the places I'm really looking at. I'm not looking much further north than that.
Yeah.
Why
is that?
I got to plant a few tent poles out there and start to get a little bit of traction before I go too far north as to where I am. So we have that. I'll just tell you, we have that tent pole that I've done in Texas. I've also planted a flag now in Florida. We've opened in the Orlando market. We have 5 stores open in the state of Florida right now. We expect to have 15 by this time next year. Maybe more. I don't have a crystal ball in front of me, and today might be earnings day, so I don't want to say anything incorrect there.
Yeah, right.
All right. But yeah, we're absolutely focused on there. We also have deals signed in other parts of the Southeast, Atlanta, Georgia, Augusta, South Carolina. Yeah, so we're excited about what we're working on.
I find a lot of the professionals in our world speak about Dutch like a coffee store. They're constantly thinking about a good, ideal site for you being on the AM or drive to work side of the road. And I often, my experience with Dutch is that the customer pattern's a little bit different. Tell us about, when is the peak time of day for a Dutch?
I mean, obviously, like anybody else, we do sell coffee. I mean, Dutch Bros coffee and energy drinks and morning times are busy for us. So, but we do as much business after 12 o'clock as we do before 12 o'clock. And so most of your coffee guys aren't going to be able to say that. They hit their business bright and early, and then they're not busy late in the afternoon.
Why is that? What do you think is different about Dutch?
They've trained a customer around hot drinks. They've trained a customer around the morning routine, getting your cup of coffee, going to work, and that's great. What we have is we've done the same thing, and we've capitalized on that. But in a lot of cases, 70% of what we sell is some sort of ice beverage, and we also sell a ton of our energy drinks.
Yeah.
And so those energy drinks, when we attract the younger crowd comes in after school. They come in early evenings. They come in late night. And so between the energy drinks, the blended or the ice drinks that we sell, that's got a bigger impact. And so how does that tie back to real estate? We're talking about who our customer is. Yeah, we skew quite a bit younger, but more important than that is we are a part of all activity. And so people say, well, where do you really want to be? Well, I want to be near a mix of retail, work, and home. Just one of those things isn't great for me. In some brands, it could be great for, right? McDonald's just near retail is great, or near work is great.
Right.
I need all 3 of those. I sometimes say, well, you skew young. You want to be near the high schools. Listen, high schools are awesome, but sometimes they're built a few miles out of town, right?
Yeah.
And what I really want to be is I want to be where are people spending their time? Are people spending their time, shopping? Do I have a pad in front of a mall? I think you showed me some of the Florence Mall in Florence, Kentucky, right?
Yep.
A pad in front of the mall. There's a movie theater, and at 8 o'clock at night, is there a ton of activity going on here? Yeah, that's where I want to be.
So you've done 700. You've done 700 stores at Dutch. You've done 600 stores at Popeye, so 1,300 stores.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a few hundred from somebody else in there
Sure.
somewhere. So what's the wildest thing that's ever happened to you in a deal?
We have a store in Oceanside, California. A guys, it's on the corner of Oceanside Boulevard and Interstate 5. Okay.
And the store rips.
And you said it, okay.
The store rips.
And it is doing very, very well for us. And that piece of real estate is a piece of real estate that we worked on. I worked on for a dozen years across 3 different brands, trying to be able to put a deal together there. We had a very difficult landlord. We had a very difficult city when it came to not only entitlements, but some things having to do with utility infrastructure and being able to get everybody out of the way. And I tried to build a Popeyes deal there for a number of years. If you're standing in my parking lot right now, you'll look across the street and you'll see a Popeyes deal right there. And that was after we had given up after a few years of trying to make this site happen. That we ended up moving across the street. And then I was doing some consulting work, helping the folks at Arby's for a while, and we tried to put one in here too, and just wasn't going to work. And I never gave up on this site. And yeah, I think a little bit of validation is that. I think a little bit of validation is it's one of the top 5 stores in my company. We've been able to put that together,
which is tremendous.
Yeah.
And think about the effort that went into that, a dozen years. Wow, just wild.
One of the things we've learned over the years is you got to strike while the iron's hot and you got to move quick. And you and I did a deal here. You and I had a Burger King opportunity that we converted here outside the base here in was that Hill Air Force
Hill
Base?
Air Force Base.
Hill Air Force Base.
Clearfield, Utah.
And I think some of the folks on our respective teams weren't as in a hurry to get that done for whatever reason. And when you and I finally got together, it took us about 7 minutes to put the deal together. And I'm not even exaggerating.
I actually think you're rounding up. I think you're 6.
And I get really excited every time I drive by that because here I saw a building, and listen, the Burger King guys take care of their stuff, and they did a real good job, but time had passed them by, and they needed to do something else. So we took that building, and with my team, we were able to get that thing up and running and operating inside of like 4.5 months from the time we signed the deal with you to the time we actually opened the doors. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And it was, that was a +1 for me on whatever quarter that was, whatever year it was, wasn't something that we were counting on. And I love deals like that. I'm always pushing you, there's not you're talking about driving by. There's not a guy out there who does what I do, who doesn't drive by every drive-through. And you're just as bad at this. You never saw a drive-through I didn't like, and how can I convert that, and how can I make that work for us? And so I love being able to take these second-generation spaces, second, third-generation spaces, and do something very cool with them. We've converted Wendy's, we've converted Banks, we've converted Sonics. I think those are the ones that probably get me the most excited. I just tell you, I get really excited when we're chasing things, whether it be chasing an end-of-the-year deadline or an end-of-the-quarter deadline, or just sometimes people say, why are you pushing so hard to get this deal done? Because I can. Because we can do it, right? Why would you not do that? Why would you not be in a hurry to get something open and start, changing the world? And that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of this is your real estate career.
Yeah.
Before your real estate career, you had a different career.
I did.
Yeah. How long did you spend in the ring?
I wrestled. Okay, let me be very clear here. I've never left the ring. All right. All that to say, I wrestled in high school and college, amateur wrestler.
Right.
Did all that.
Greco-Roman.
Yeah, freestyle.
Yeah, right.
Freestyle.
Okay, sorry.
Those Greco guys are tough. All right. But it did all of that for the longest time.
Yes.
And then I did some Golden Gloves boxing, whatnot. But and then I used to fight in tough man contests. Remember those old 4-round boxing tough man? And
yeah, I mean, this is all pre-UFC. This is
all
pre-UFC,
exactly. Right? And then at the gym, I was going to grad school at Duke, and I'm at the gym, and I met a couple of wrestlers who own the gym. They said, "Hey, can you, if you can make it through our tryout camp, we'll train you to be a pro wrestler." I was in the best shape of my life back then. Don't challenge me. And so that would have been about 1994, and I made it through their tryout camp, and then I did some, got signed, and I wrestled with a company called WCW, or NWA, World Championship Wrestling, for a number of years, and then eventually they got acquired by WWE. Was under contract with both organizations at one point or another. Never a top guy, never a guy you saw on TV very often. Was always, I think the term they use these days is enhancement talent. Call it a jobber. But, some folks play soccer in the evening, or they're in a men's softball league. I always had a day job, was going to school, owned some restaurants, and then I wrestled. The cool thing about it is I got to travel all over the world. Got to do some really great things in the wrestling business. Made a little bit of money, not a lot of money, but got experience in things like television production and pointing at microphones right now and how to talk in a microphone and and what is what is stage left and what is stage right, and,
Right.
what's a hard cam, and things along those lines that people really start. Not only you get to learn about the production thing, get to learn about the way you market things, and we call it putting butts in the seats, but how do you get people in the doors,
Sure.
and talk them into the arena? And it's like, live from the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia, things like that, right? So
in that world, obviously, persona is everything. And
Right.
They're selling a persona, and it's always a tough guy persona. Were there any of the wrestlers that stood out to you that when you got to know them, you're like, you're literally probably one of the nicest people I've ever met? Is there somebody that would just blow everybody away with how nice they were?
actually, I think everybody would I think everybody would blow you away with how nice they were, because it's all a game.
Yeah.
What I will tell you is the people who were not successful long term are the people who believed in the gimmick, or they believed the gimmick that they were putting out there. Here's a little peek under the curtain. All right, wrestling's fake.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so
You heard it here
when
first.
you go in there, someone's going to win and someone's going to lose.
Right.
That's great. Well, when you start to take that personal, when you're in there to lose, you're not in there to lose. You're in there to put on a show and entertain the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and sometimes advance the storyline depending upon where you are. If you start to take those losses personal, or you start to believe in your gimmick a little too much, so I can tell you just firsthand experience, folks. Like Harley Race, who you may not be old enough to know who Harley Race was, but he was a real tough old guy. He was the nicest man in the world. Okay, and then you guys watch Ric Flair. I mean, everybody knows who Ric Flair is to this day. He's still out there styling, profiling, wheeling, and dealing. He is what you see on TV is what you get in real life.
Oh, really?
What you see on TV is what you get in real life. And then there's a lot of wrestlers who've passed over the years, and guys like Eddie Guerrero was a friend of mine, and unfortunately he passed back in 2005, and probably one of the nicest, most sincere guys I've ever met. Same with John Cena. Obviously John Cena's still alive and out there doing it. We look at these guys, and I'm in awe. I knew a lot of them when they were really young, and they've done some very good things for themselves.
Yeah.
I never had, it's definitely a game of personality, and I'm a big personality, and I like to talk, and I like to have some fun with this. I never had the addiction to the spotlight, right? So it's never something I craved every single day. Most people say, I don't believe that about you, Aaron, but trust me, when we talk about even guys like you and me, Chris, we're out there, we're public guys, we're trying to get this done. Where we are and where like those next level professional wrestlers are, it's night and day when it comes to living the gimmick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild. All those deals that you've put together in just a long, wonderful career, in the commercial real estate and in the drive-through space more specifically, what's the biggest mistake you've ever made professionally?
Yeah, there's a long pause there because the list is so big. I think there's a few things we can probably say we've done wrong. I think over the years, not so much at Dutch, but even with some other brands, have been. I think we've chased numbers to chase numbers at times, which is, hey, there's an opportunity to do 10 stores. Let's just go do it, and without thinking a real long-term approach towards the market plan, where we need to be with where the market's going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and do we really need to have 15 chicken joints in this town? So I think that's probably been a fair question there. I think early in my career, I think if just not being fully transparent with some franchisees, it would probably be a big mistake. Never lied, but never went out of my way to let them know maybe what the company might have been up to. So that that's something I think as I've gotten older, I just don't have time for drama, and so I would say that, and then we opened. I say we. This is not a Dutch, another brand. We opened some stores in Idaho, and allowed a franchisee to expand. And so we talk about a mistake. They run out of places to grow. They're a California-based franchisee. They were doing really, really well, and they were looking for places to go. And I'm like, hey man, we need to be in Boise. They had a lot of money, and they acted like they knew what they were doing, and probably didn't vet them well enough. And we allowed them to go to we allowed them to go into a couple of markets in Idaho where we had no existing stores, and I think we damaged the brand for a number of years by having done that up there. And you said this was 15 years ago, and do I regret that? Yeah, I sometimes drive by those stores like, yeah, we got that one wrong, Aaron.
What would you do different?
I would be very focused on what the operational plan is to be able to support those stores. Not, hey, great, we get to do a store and we get that store count, we get that revenue. It's where are we at with people? Who's going to run the stores? And then who's running your current organization, and do they have the ability to scale? Do they have the ability to scale up and grow? You have somebody who's been running 3 stores, but they don't want to travel, so they don't want to go from California to Idaho. How are we going to scale? How are we going to support that?
It's a great point. I mean, you think about what you do or what I do for a living, and we go find that new site. We determine that this is an acceptable site. Then we got to go through just the normal protocol of getting a building built. You got to get it open, and then we leave and go to the next thing, right? But the operator stays there. So,
yeah, but I think about just even at the above the store level. You've got a district manager, a regional manager, whatever you want to call it. Depending upon the brand. And who's there to support that? And then what does the back office infrastructure look like? Do you have somebody, do you have an IT person to be able to, when the computers don't work, who do they call, right? When there's a facilities problem, who do they call? We built a great structure here at Dutch Bros, and we've got someone you can call 24/7. When I allowed some franchisees in the past to scale, yeah, maybe it wasn't as well as it should have been. And so that would probably be a big regret. And I think the other thing is we think about regrets is making sure, and this is as you get older, making sure you learn from the mistakes. They're going to happen. And, during the pandemic, I opened a couple stores in some neighborhoods that were pretty good. Since the pandemic is over, the neighborhoods have gotten really bad. I regret that. But I've learned from that.
It seems fitting that since I asked you the question, one of the giant mistakes I made and how we originally met. We actually bought a property in Orem, Utah, and it had a Taco Bell on it and a Burger King. And Taco Bell figured out that they could move to a pad in front of Target. That franchisee liked to own their own real estate, so they bought the pad, built a Taco Bell there. That left me with a dark restaurant, really cheap rent though. So I kind of was going up no matter what. So that was the good thing. And I actually had Zaxby's bidding against Popeyes, and so that was the first time we met, if you remember.
I do.
Yeah. And I did not pick your brand, right? And
I seem to think the conversation was, we feel that Zaxby's and their franchisee with no stores is a better fit for our property than your billionaire franchisee with a nationwide brand.
I'll tell you, it has required way more time and attention from us than a normal net lease transaction should. Had we just chosen the Popeyes, it would be business as normal, and we wouldn't be talking.
Zaxby's does a good job. Popeyes does a good job. I knew, it actually was a learning lesson that came out of it. I was like, why are they pushing so hard to get Zaxby's going here? Some supply chain things. They needed to have a number of stores. But it's, I think in the end we saw, what Popeyes was able to do in this market. I wouldn't kick myself over that one too much because we've done a lot of Dutch Bros deals together.
That's right.
And by the way, we're going to do a lot more.
That's right. Yeah, I look forward to it. And what it is funny, back to learning from your mistakes, when I ran into you at the ICSC New York City event in 2019, And I ate crow. I walked up and I said, "Do you remember me?" And hi. And I chose Zaxby's, not you. And you obviously remembered who I was. And it was a good opportunity for me to eat some crow and just say, "Hey, look, like let's figure out how we go do something together." And you were totally willing, so it was great.
What one of my deals, you've heard me talk about it. I mean, we were talking about Rocky movies earlier. Is redemption, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we can get a deal done, that's great. You win, I win, my brand wins, my employees win, my customers win.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that matters, right? Yeah. Okay, we can go out here and we can punch each other, because we're mad, but so what?
Yeah.
And we're all, it's all a long-term game. And there's going to be some wins and there's going to be some losses. And, we've talked about being, 750 stores or whatever it is I build here at Dutch. I'd love to tell you that every single one of them is Oceanside, California.
Right.
They're not.
Yeah.
I mean, but I definitely like our track record here. All right, and we talked about a couple of my failures at Popeyes. More important, we get better. I mean, we are. We're working. We're trying to go nationwide. A little bit on the south side of the nation. Nothing in the Northeast or nothing north of Virginia just yet. But we want to continue growing in Florida. Right, I think Florida
is part of that growth pattern. You mentioned just kind of the south side of the U.S. Is part of that because you're selling 60? What did you say? 65% of your drinks are frozen or ice?
Probably more at times.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also it's making sure people start to recognize us. One of the things about I'm a drive-through coffee company. And I need to go where people. This may sound crazy. I need to go where people drive. And all right, and so people don't drive in Manhattan. People aren't, and am I going to work on those eventually? Am I gonna open stores in subways? Am I going to open stores in corner lots in Manhattan? Heck yeah, I am. Not yet. That's not what I'm worried about just yet. Right now, what I'm worried about is being focused on where are people driving? Where are their young families and things are growing, and. One of the things I like to do in the neighborhoods, I take my team out and we do this sometimes. The first time we go into a market, we drive the subdivisions. And I start looking at basketball goals in the driveway. That tells me if they got young kids. And sometimes you'll see it's like old and rusted and kind of falling apart. You see those. Okay, that means those guys have moved away.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and and so okay, is it what's happening in this neighborhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And get to spend some time there. And there's just been so much growth in the Midwest and the Southeast. You look at Kansas City, one of the fastest growing markets in the U.S. You look at Huntsville, Alabama, the fastest growing city in the Southeast. That's been incredible for us. And then I think the growth in Florida kind of speaks for itself. I mean, everybody knows what's been happening in Florida. Just continued not only population growth but just economic growth.
To me, it seems like Florida and Dutch is a great combination, right?
We are pleasantly surprised not pleasantly surprised. We are very happy with our early returns in the stores that we've opened so far.
Good to hear.
We are, and we haven't even hit the heart of Orlando or Tampa yet.
Mm-hmm.
We are on a couple of stores on the outskirts, just the way the timing worked. We have had some fun regulatory challenges trying to get our first couple stores open in Orlando, but they're coming.
Yeah, can't wait. As we wrap, in the odd event that there's somebody out there that's listening to this that hasn't been to a Dutch Bros, what drink are you telling them to go get today? By the way, I get a grande. I just get the nitro cold brew.
Okay,
so nitro cold brew.
I like to change it up constantly, but my go-to is our Rebel energy drink. Because I'm not bouncing off the walls enough. I like to get our orange and vanilla flavor in a blended Rebel energy drink, and then you put a soft top, which is a layer of sweet cream across the top. That is my go-to drink. I tell everybody to have that. I like to have one about 3 o'clock most afternoons, and that's incredible. Now, if you're more of the coffee person, I would tell you our version of what some people might know as a standard, like a caramel macchiato. We refer to as a caramelizer, and that is half and half in coffee and milk and steamed and hot, and it's delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, So really, and I would say either a caramelizer or the Rebel energy drink.
There you go.
We also do sell iced tea. We also sell Italian. We call it a Dutch soda, but it's, a version of an Italian soda. And so you can get something we refer to as like ocean water. That's pretty tasty.
Ocean water.
Yeah, but I'm a much bigger fan of just the Rebel energy drinks.
I love it.
That's the problem with being in the office.
Yeah.
I can drink them unlimited. The days I'm in the office, the poor team has to deal with me hyped up on it.
Okay, so when you call me and you're at like 3,000 words per minute, that's what's going on. You've just had like 2 or 3 Rebels and you're ready to roll.
Either that or I was just listening to Iron Maiden. All right. I mean, one or the other, right? I mean, and I'm just a little pumped up, right?
I love it.
Okay.
love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Arron Harris, thanks for joining us today on the Dirt Dog Pod.
Chris, thank you for having me join you on the inaugural one.
That's it.
And, I want to say what you guys are doing and the noise you're out there making. It's a good kind of noise. And I'm just proud that you pick us to partner with and work with. So thank you.